You had a list and you wrote down 5 long-term goals, right, at the age of 14. And number 1 was to go to Southern California. Number 5 was just to be nice to people. Number 2 was to be a sportscaster on ESPN.
Come on.
So when are you going to come over here?
No, dude, I grew up, idolizing anchors, to be honest, because I watch SportsCenter every single day, every night before I went to bed. So I idolize, guys like Neil Everett, Stan Verrett, Kenny Mayne, like all those guys. They kind of were the reason that I fell in love with sports.
All right, how about that?
How about that? Sam Darnold, smartest quarterback in the NFL and a Super Bowl winner. That was cool, man. I'm 64
absolutely.
years old, and I got a thrill out of that.
Congratulations to Sam Darnold and the Seahawks. Welcome into the Stan and Neil Show. This is episode number 30. We appreciate those of you joining us here on Twitch. You can also catch this show on YouTube or anywhere else you get your podcasts. But we always appreciate it when you join us live because we get a chance to interact with you via the chat. So if you're watching right now live on Twitch, please take advantage of the chat feature. If you have questions or comments, we'll get them on. And Neil will tell you how you can subscribe for even more benefits.
First of all, I need to say we need Sam Darnold as a guest, and then we need to say the Stan and Neil Show starts right now.
Let's go with Stan and Neil Show. The Stan and Neil Show. And Neil.
All right, it is official. We're on with episode number 30. Thank you all for joining us here live on Twitch. And now, Neil, if you can tell the people about subscriptions.
Yeah, become a subscriber here on Twitch right now. Start with the rookie level, no commercials there. We'll soon be offering up some special ways to interact with the show, so stay tuned.
All right, how about that Super Bowl? Started out pretty boring, didn't it?
Stan, there's a lot of boring out there on this Super Bowl, but I found it very entertaining. Now, I don't know how much of that was because I have such disdain for New England to see them get their brains beat in. I took great delight in. Also, I was rooting for Seattle. I grew up in the Northwest, born in Oregon, grew up in the state of Washington, but I wasn't really going to lose any sleep over if Seattle didn't win. But, it's boring if you're not into like defenses just dominating, if you're not into guys just bull rushing left tackles and, collapsing the pocket, if your idea of entertainment has got to be that you got to have, a lot more scoring. Well, the over-under on this game was 45.5, I believe, and I think the final score was 42 if I did the math right. So I never thought of it. As boring. I just thought of it as, wow, this is really. And Collinsworth kept saying it. This feels like it's going to be a defensive football game, and it's kind of like in baseball. Do you want a bunch of home runs, or do you want to see a pitcher throw 8 innings of shutout ball, or maybe even a complete game, or a no hitter, or the rare perfect game? So you can make arguments for both, but I never found it boring. But then when I was listening and reading all the post game contributions from the various men and women out there, boring was a word that was used quite a bit for that game.
I tweeted it during the game. I said, okay, this is a boring game. Now, I like defense. I like all the intricacies of football as much as the next guy. But it wasn't just the fact that the defenses were dominating. The offenses just weren't executing. You know what I mean? And the defenses had a lot to do with that. I mean, both teams came in with really good defenses. But, it was just, it picked up at the end. And so, I think we got a satisfying product by the time it was all done. But in the beginning, it was kind of a snooze fest. And I guess, look, you have different kinds of games throughout the season. I don't think anybody would have really complained about that during the regular season, if that were a regular season game. Because some games you win ugly or you lose ugly. But the fact that it was a Super Bowl and the game gets so much hype and there's so much expectation, even this year with subdued expectations, I think, because there wasn't as much hype on this year's Super Bowl because, as we talked about in our last show, there just wasn't that much star power in the game of recognizable household names, especially after a decade and a half of Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. We just didn't have that this time. And so I think when it's the Super Bowl, still you expect, okay, this is going to be a great game. And from a defensive perspective, yes, there was a lot of defense, but I just didn't feel like the defenses were prevailing over good offense. I thought it was bad offense as much as it was good defense. And so, but again, it picked up at the end of the game. I think the Patriots made a sort of a comeback, and it got interesting for a while after the Mac Hollins touchdown. It got interesting for a while, but Seattle got the fumble return for a touchdown, and then that pretty much sealed it. So, all in all, I think by the end of the game, it was a satisfactory product. But I don't think it's going to go down in the annals of great Super Bowls unless we're talking specifically about the Seahawks' defensive performance. I think that is maybe a top 10 defensive performance, maybe even top 5 defensive performance in the Super Bowl.
Okay, so was it Seattle's defense or the Patriots' inadequate offense? Because you said two different things there.
Okay, so it was a combination of both, I think. Will Campbell had a nightmare of a game at left tackle.
And then wouldn't come out and talk to the press afterwards.
Patriots.
Which you got to go face. You got to go face the music, man.
Yeah, but he's young. He's 22. He's still learning to be a professional.
Yeah.
He said he explained it today. He said he felt like he would have said some things that he shouldn't say, and so that's why he didn't feel comfortable talking to reporters. You can accept that or take it for what it's worth. But he did speak today, and he said, he knows he's got to get better. I saw a breakdown of some of his play online, and basically the problem was that he was already moving backwards when the rush was coming at him, and so he didn't have any forward leverage to try to meet the force with force. He's backing up, and so he's absorbing the force and then just getting pushed back into the quarterback. And so once the Seahawks figured out that his technique was lacking, then it was like, okay, it's open season on him now. And they just collapsed that side of the pocket every single time. And Drake Maye, who, look, I thought Drake Maye arrived ahead of schedule. And I didn't think that he would be able to deal with this defense, even with more time than he got, and he had no time. But I just thought he arrived ahead of schedule, and he wasn't ready for this stage yet, as great as he was during the regular season. I didn't think he was that great in the playoffs. He made some plays on the ground in the playoffs, but I didn't feel like he really got into a groove as a passer during the playoffs. And again, you're playing better defenses in the playoffs than you played during routine regular season games. But, look, the future's bright. I mean, I think he's only going to get better. I think for all of his refusal to own up to it on Super Bowl Sunday, I think this is going to be a challenge for Will Campbell, who's a good player. It's going to be a challenge for him moving forward to correct those problems. So, because he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny, because there were some people who thought coming out of LSU that maybe he'd be better positioned as a guard in the NFL. But Vrabel has come out and said, no, we're not moving him to guard or center or tight end. He's our left tackle, and we're just going to help him get better. So that was a real problem for the Patriots.
Witherspoon said in an interview with somebody after the game, to your point, only even taking it further, studying tape, they were keyed in on what the offensive line was doing, and they took advantage of that. So it was even prior to Witherspoon backpedaling immediately that they were keyed in, and he wouldn't say obviously what they keyed in on, but he said the coaching staff had them where they knew what was going on a lot of the time, and that's why it looked like the holy rain of hell coming down on May more often than not, and that pocket just collapsing and that defense just swallowing him.
Yeah, and look, credit to the Seahawks on offense. I got to give them credit for doing what so many teams didn't do throughout the playoffs. They took the points. They took the points.
Yeah.
Every time they got down there, they didn't mess around. They're like, hey, let's take the points. We got a good defense. We're dominating. If we got to kick 1,000,000 field goals, we'll win it 1,000,000 field goals to nothing. But our defense is playing well. Keep taking the points.
Yeah, they were the most complete team. Their defense was spectacular. The offense was adequate. It matriculated down the field with no Charbonneau and not that much of JSN. The special teams were off the hook. I mean, that punter, unbelievable. I think he put 2 inside the 5, 3 inside the 10. The coverage team's great. The field goal kicker, 5 field goals. Seattle won every phase of the game. And really took it to New England, a team that was playing a schedule that of a team that went 3-14 last year. So their schedule they hadn't met a team, they hadn't played a team as good as Seattle, nowhere near as good as Seattle, because Buffalo, they got Josh Allen, but their defense, forget about it. They don't even get into the club that Seattle's in, and now New England will be interesting because now they're going to play a schedule of a 14-3 team. Right. So a real mark on where they're at's going to come during the regular season next year when they're playing some tougher opponents.
Yeah, looking ahead for Seattle too, boy, they got a big off season coming up because they got a lot of guys they got to pay, a lot of them, beginning with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Let's see here. I was looking at this earlier, and so Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's eligible for an extension. So is Devin Witherspoon. Rashid Shaheed is scheduled to become a free agent. Kenneth Walker III scheduled to become a free agent. And Kobe Bryant, defensive back, he's going to become a free agent as well. So they got to spend a lot of money if they want to keep this group together. And we'll see how many of those guys ride that Super Bowl halo to a free agent contract somewhere else. Because sometimes, when the team wins a Super Bowl, guys take that and they go somewhere else. Like, oh, he's the Super Bowl champion. He's coming to our team now, and that can be worth money in free agency. So we'll see how the Seahawks manage that roster.
I kind of thought Witherspoon should have been the MVP because he had the pressure that led to I don't know if it was ruled a fumble for a touchdown or a pick six. Right, I think it might have changed it to a pick six for Nwasu. I just thought somebody on the defense, either him or the big fella who his name's escaping me, had 2 sacks. But I understand Kenneth Walker. He had damn near half of Seattle's offense, and he did it without Zach Sherman in there. Yeah. So. Yeah, but I just thought that somebody on the defense deserved it, but you can't give it to the whole defense. And I don't even know who votes on that. I'm guessing it's media members or –
Yeah. I saw a theory where you give it to the whole defense, which I thought would have been something interesting. That would have been really interesting to do.
And you would have had to take 11 guys to Disneyland, though, instead of 2.
and then wasn't there the Cowboys, I believe, had co-MVPs once. And
Harvey Martin and Randy White against Denver way back. Right. Yeah.
So maybe they could have gone with, Witherspoon and one of the other guys. But I mean, it's it's hard to argue that when you look back over their total body of work over the season, it's hard to argue that the Seahawks weren't the best team. The best team didn't win the Super Bowl. The best team won the Super Bowl, I think, this year, for sure, because they came out of the NFC West, which, with 3 playoff teams, I think was probably the best division in the NFL. The Rams were a whisker away, from getting there, and I think they had enough talent, I think, to win the Super Bowl, but they couldn't get through Seattle. Seattle all season, I mean, they lost their 3 games in the regular season by a total of 9 points. They went through the entire playoffs without a turnover. And everybody said all along, if Sam Darnold doesn't turn the ball over, they're very, very hard to beat. And not only did he not turn the ball over, nobody turned the ball over. And Mike McDonald became the first coach calling defensive plays in the Super Bowl to win it. So hats off to the Seahawks. Complete team performance throughout the entire season.
Yeah, to your point, second most turnovers during the regular season, no turnovers in the Super Bowl. And I don't think it's even a probably. I think it's definitive. The West that Seattle came out of was the best conference or the best division, whatever the right terminology is.
Division,
I mean, because
you
I
had
think
it right.
Okay, Seattle most complete team. Second would have been the Rams. And I think third on that list would be the 49ers. And all three of those live in the same zip code. Had any one of those teams busted through, I think they would have busted New England. The Rams got to be sitting there going, damn, we were, they had that 2-point conversion that Seattle got where they thought the ball was dead. Then they had the punt return from your dude, Shaheed from the Saints when he ran it back. I mean, that turned that game around. And then they had fourth and goal from the 1 or the 4 or whatever it was and went for it, didn't get it. I think McVay, I think I saw something where he was down in Cabo. Yeah. I mean, that dude could not get enough Corona in him to ease the pain.
Look like they were all having a good time, though. The whole Rams crew was down there.
Yeah. You got to give it.
I think they're at my favorite spot in Cabo, too. I won't say the name because I don't want people going and driving the rates up. But I think they go to the same spot that me and my wife like there because I've heard Sean Payton likes this spot, too. I'm not going to say the name of it because people are going to start going and the rates are going to go up. But it's a nice resort down there in Cabo.
But we will say The Office. Give a shout-out to The Office in Cabo for the tacos, man. You've been to The Office down there,
I haven't
bet.
been there.
Yeah. Oh, you probably have. You probably had too many Coronas. You didn't realize you were in there. Yeah.
No, this place that I will not name has lobster tacos that are absolutely phenomenal. And they have a great restaurant. And that's the food you eat at the cantina out on the beach, when you're having your Corona.
Yeah.
But then they have a very nice fine dining restaurant, too, where you can get elevated Mexican cuisine. But again, I'm not saying any names because,
Well, people are Googling lobster tacos, Cabo, fine dining, Stan Verrett.
Okay, I will do this. If you can guess it in the chat and you get it correct, I will acknowledge it. But you have to nail it. So we'll see.
There you go. You know who nailed it was the general manager for the Seahawks, Stan, John Schneider, and you saw him. He had the kind of the beard, and he had a T-shirt on. I was trying to figure out if it was a rock and roll T-shirt or what it was underneath the jacket. But I mean, he hires a first-time head coach in Mike McDonald. Everybody goes offense, offense, offense. He hires a defensive-minded coach. He lets Russ Wilson lets him go. With one of the draft picks, got Witherspoon. He lets Pete Carroll go. Pete Carroll was kind of synonymous with Seahawk football there. Lets him go. Traded Geno Smith. Drafted JSN. Traded DJ Metcalf. Drafted Emanwari, if I'm saying that correct. The rookie, Emanwari. Yep. I mean, he pushed all the right buttons. He had in-season trades where he got Shaheed, we mentioned. He got Ernest Jones. He got Leonard Williams. I mean, I thought Leonard Williams had washed out from the Jets and the Giants, and all of a sudden I'm seeing him, the week before getting his hand on a field goal, and heck, then he's even captain for the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. And did you notice this? Were you watching this at the coin toss?
Okay,
the coin toss. The Patriots won the coin toss. They've elected to defer. Okay, and then each team's supposed to line up the way that they're going to face, the final face-off.
Yeah.
New England just ran off the field. Didn't do the face-off, and kind of the Seahawks were sitting there like, "What do we? Okay, all right, they ran off the field. We're running off the field." So they tried to punk them a little bit, and instead got punked.
The other thing I noticed was the quarterback. And maybe it's because they were warming up, but the quarterbacks were both captains, but they weren't out there for the coin toss.
That's funny. I noticed that too.
And I was like, okay.
I was looking.
Maybe they were both getting warm in case they got the ball. And so I don't know.
Might be like the All-Star. Might be like the Major League All-Star game when they go in starting pitching tonight. Justin Verlander, and he's in the pen throwing. Yeah. So,
Oh, and DeMarcus Lawrence too. I mean, they added DeMarcus Lawrence,
yeah.
and you know
Yep.
he point blank said, "Hey, I think Dallas is my home, but I'm never going to win a Super Bowl there." And then went to Seattle, and now he's gotten it done. So
Yeah.
I'm sure Cowboy fans are loving that one.
Yeah, there was that play in the third quarter. I think there were about 5 minutes left, and it was a 4th and 1. And I think it was 12-0. And the Patriots didn't go for it. They were on their own 41. And it was like, man, you're not going to get that many chances. I was surprised they punted it right there. I think they punted the first 8 possessions of the first half, and the only time they didn't punt was when they took a knee before halftime. I mean, I guess that plays into the game didn't bring an excitement level.
Yeah.
But Jesus God, Seattle's defense just punched him in the mouth, man.
So apparently, DeMarcus Lawrence, I'm just seeing this. He got a Rolex from Des Bryant. Played in Dallas from 2010 to 2017. So I don't know if they crossed paths in Dallas and played at the same time, but he told him that if they won a Super Bowl, he'd buy him a Rolex, and he won the bet. So, and this is DeMarcus Lawrence is the one his wife was getting ready to have the baby, and he was
Is
like,
that right?
don't have the baby during the Super Bowl."
Suck it up.
Yeah.
I read something, Stan. I cut and pasted it, which is quite an adventure for me, onto my phone, and it worked. It was from a guy named Connor Orr, and it was a paragraph that jumped out at me because I thought it was really great writing, and that I find that cool. He said, "This was a good team learning one of life's strange lessons." He's talking about the Patriots. Nothing, not love, not opportunity, not luck, not joy, arrives when you're ready. Sometimes on the other side, you're greeted by the tender beating heart of it all. Sometimes you see the embodiment of just how far you have to go. And I think the Patriots saw how far they have to go coming into that and just getting beat. No rhythm, conservative, couldn't block anybody. I mean, just Seattle really dictated all the terms of the Super Bowl.
Yep, the dark side got it done, and that old cliche is a cliche for a reason. Defense wins championships, and the defense got it done for Seattle. But I'm really happy for Sam Darnold, not just because he gave us a shout out, but because he's a real story of perseverance. I mean, how many times was that guy counted out? I mean, humbled himself enough to become a backup when he went to San Francisco, but he said that really helped him in his development. And then got a chance to start again in Minnesota. Goes 14-3, and they're like, nah, thanks, but we're gonna go with J.J. McCarthy. And so he goes to Seattle, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. From sticking with it. And he said, this is what I posted when I saw the clip, because somebody told me about the clip before I actually saw it, and then I saw it when SportsCenter posted it, and I said, it's great that we inspired him, but what he did was pretty inspiring too. And what he said after the Super Bowl was really inspiring. Most of all, he said, if you keep believing in yourself, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And, his belief had to be tested, over and over and over again. I mean, this is what, his 5th team? And now he's the Super Bowl champion. And so now it's like, okay, I think he can unleash the ability that made him, what was it, number 3 overall pick? He had that kind of ability. We went to the Jets, and I mean, he's not the first quarterback to go to the Jets and things not work out. But I think now, he's put together 2 really solid seasons. Last season, it kind of unraveled in the postseason. This time, it didn't. And so I think Sam Darnold, he's making a case to join that upper echelon of quarterbacks. Now we'll see what happens and what they do in terms of an offensive coordinator, because you know how much I like Clint Kubiak.
Yeah.
And I think he's a part of that story too. So we'll see where they go with that and how the offense evolves with a new offensive coordinator. But Sam Darnold, a player on the rise right now, and again, I'm not saying this because he was so gracious enough to mention us. I'm saying it because I heard it from so many people. Everybody loves this guy. Everybody. All of his former teammates, all the other teams. I mean, everybody raves about him, and so many people were happy for him because he stuck with it and because they say he's as good a player as he is. He's as good a person as he is a player.
Yeah, you know who really loves him is Stan Neal and Kenny Mayne. Okay, but his demeanor is so so on point. He just comes across as genuine. And when when he was saying, hey man, I wouldn't change the journey all the way. A lot of guys, a lot of young guys too. He's still a young guy. That's in your face, Jets, or whatever. How do you like me now? I mean, Geno Smith left Seattle, came to the Raiders, and ended up flipping off the Raider fans and the Seattle fans. And, and it's just, take a lesson on humbleness and humility from Sam Darnold. And one of the huge plays in that game was his run for a first down. I think it was the first drive of the third quarter, and it was better than any run that Drake Maye had. And what was noticeable about it was, afterwards he got up and he didn't do that thing or whatever. He just got back and went back to the huddle, and I'm like, wow, he just comes across as really grounded, and for a guy who could be really looking over his shoulder given some of his past experiences. And you brought it up earlier, and on an earlier show, and it's hard to believe he's the first USC quarterback to start a Super Bowl.
Yeah. So there's that, and then Kenneth Walker the third.
Yeah.
Now his father, Kenneth Walker the second, had never been to a game.
Really?
He had never been to. He doesn't like crowds, and so he had never been to any of his games. And finally, he's like, "Dad, it's a Super Bowl, okay? You got to come to the Super Bowl." So his dad was there, and he got to see. His son,
they showed him, yeah,
become the MVP.
Wow.
In a situation where there had to have been some conversations the week leading up to the game, like, "Hey Ken, it's on you, man. We don't have a sharper day." Although Solani, when he got in there. Man, he was good.
Holani, I think it is. Yeah.
Holani.
Yeah,
George Holani. When he got in there, he made a couple of moves. He had a couple of carries where he made a couple of moves and picked up some yards. But Walker, 27 carries, 135 yards. I mean, that was a workhorse day. And when his team really needed him to carry the load, he carried it.
Yeah, plus the way he runs, it's like he was like slow motion, cut, go.
Yeah.
He was really picking his spot where you're just like, God, go, run, and then he would. He had great field vision. I was really impressed by him, and like you said, him and Charbonnet really they talked about how they had each other's back, and how Kenneth Walker says, I'm carrying the ball for both of us, and he carried Seattle to the Super Bowl, man.
Yeah. And, I got to say, the fans there in Seattle, I mean, they have some tremendous fans in Seattle, the 12s. I mean, they're loud. They're enthusiastic. I mean, I remember when I went for that Saints playoff game, the Beastquake game, and they were 7-9. And they won the division because the division was terrible that year. And so they got a home game. And the Saints got in as a wild card. I believe they were 13-3. And they got in as a wild card, and everywhere you went, people were like, they were all there. I mean, it was sold out. Everybody was enthusiastic, but there was one guy holding up a sign that said 7-9 pride, and then, people saw me in Saints gear like, oh man, you guys are going to kill us, but we're just happy to be here. And then as the game played out, they were like, okay, they started to believe. And then Lynch makes that run. And then it was like, it was euphoria in there. I mean, and I was jealous as a Saints fan. I was really jealous because they were having such a good time because they're like, hey, we just expected to just show up and play and get beat, and now here we are, we're going to win this game. And they enjoyed it so much. In fact, I went back to the hotel and I said, I'm not staying here the rest of the weekend. It was the first game on Saturday. And I told you before, I was going to go see the Space Needle and the fish market and Jimi Hendrix and all that kind of. No, I'm leaving because everywhere I was Seahawks. I'm like, I can't listen to this for another day and a half. So I went back to the changed my flight, went back to the airport, flew back to LA because I'm like, I just need to just kind of put this into perspective by myself. I don't need Seahawk fans to help me.
Penalized himself. He flew Frontier, just to really feel the misery.
No,
sorry,
it's
Frontier.
Funny. I remember because I flew Alaska that time, and then 3 years later, they played again in Seattle, and I switched hotels and switched airlines just to try to change the mojo, and it didn't work that time either.
Kenny Mayne got to be the 12 one time where he got to raise the, they picked somebody from the 12s to raise the banner, the 12 flag. He got to do that one time. And that's the thing too. Like I remember when the Saints won, how happy I was for you because I knew how much it meant to you, and how much it meant to your city, and and I thought about that with Seattle and Kenny Mayne and
Kimes,
yeah,
another huge.
Mina
Seahawks
Kimes
fan.
is yeah. It's just it's. Yeah, it was cool. It was. What did you think of the halftime show, man? I didn't. The part that stood out to me was I thought those were real trees, and then they were people in tree costumes. So
it's a good jumping off point for that because if you're a Seahawks fan and you think about how excited you were for your team to play in the Super Bowl and how much that meant to you, or if you're a Patriots fan and you think about how excited Patriots fans were like, hey, after Tom Brady, we got the next guy already, and we got our guy Vrabel. Think about how exciting that had to be for all Patriots fans. That's how exciting it was for Bad Bunny fans, and there are way more of them than there are Patriots and Seahawks fans all over the world. That's how excited Bad Bunny fans were to see him perform at the Super Bowl. And I thought like the production value and the cultural significance of all the different, like there's so many layers to it. Like the taco stand there in the
was in LA.
was a real taco stand. Yeah, here in Highland Park. And the conductor, he handpicked the conductor of the orchestra, who has the Latino heritage as well. The bodega and the guys playing dominoes and the sugar cane and just all the representation of Puerto Rican culture and Latino culture. I mean, it was really significant. It was important for inclusion. Now, look, I didn't understand any of the lyrics because I don't speak Spanish. But I felt the vibe. Like I'm from New Orleans, and New Orleans, we have our own hip hop version of rap music called bounce. Okay, and bounce uses this one beat from this song by the Showboys called Trigger Man. And it's the bass beat for almost every bounce record. And it's kind of the same thing with reggaeton, which is what Bad Bunny's genre is mostly, where that shuffle beat is kind of infused into every song. And so you could listen to 45 minutes of reggaeton and it almost feels like it's the same song because the groove and the vibe and that shuffle beat is the same. And so I felt the vibe of it, and from all my years hanging out at the Conga Room here in LA, I know that vibe, right? And so it was I was happy that there were people who felt inclusion at the Super Bowl. And look, let's face it, like the NFL, I don't know how much of this was that and how much of it was, hey, this is the biggest artist in the world, and we're going to create a whole bunch of new fans by having this guy on. I mean, I'm sure the financial motive was as big as anything else for the NFL.
You think?
Yeah. But if a byproduct of that is, inclusion at a time when there is so much rancor and division, I mean, I think it's a reminder that we're all Americans. We all have to live together. We have a wonderful melange of cultures, ethnicities, traditions, and backgrounds that all come together under one unified theme, and that unified theme is that we're all Americans. And that respect for other cultures, that respect for other traditions, other sensibilities even is what makes us uniquely American. I heard some people say, this would never happen in another country. And I'm like, that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. This could never happen in another country because other countries either, it's one thing. You know what I mean? And in America, the great part about it is not one thing, We enjoy tacos, and we enjoy crepes, and we enjoy hamburgers, and we enjoy hot dogs, And so it's
Beignets.
Beignets, exactly. I thought that part of it, lasagna, right? I thought that part of it was uniquely American. And then the other part about it is, look, this is a rags to riches story. Bad Bunny didn't grow up with a lot. His parents were both working class parents, but he believed in his ability as a musician, as a performer, and he said, I'm going to use this talent to create a better life. And he did. And I mean, that's land of opportunity. That's American dream. That's the whole deal of what kids learn about what it means to be an American. So he's a great example of that. Now, look, some of the lyrics, a little risque, you know what I mean? But, show me a successful pop musician or performer who doesn't have some sexuality infused into their music, and I mean, so that just kind of comes with the territory. I mean, we can go back to Elvis and Chuck Berry shaking their hips, way back when. So I can understand if you have small children, there was some grinding and there some booty shaking that maybe too much for small kids. You may want to cover their eyes. But other than that, I just thought, it was good. And, next year, who knows? It could be K-pop next year. Who knows what it could be? It could be, a rock band. It could, but there's enough to go around for everybody.
Well, the game's in LA next year. The game's in LA next year, so I would think they would have to hone in on well, they had Kendrick Lamar last.
K-pop's big. K-pop's big here.
Is it?
Yeah, Koreatown.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
I would say I would bet LA has the largest Korean population in America. In America, maybe the largest Korean population outside of Korea.
All right. Well, I'm sure Roger Goodell's got some of his folks working that angle right now. Then
and Jay-Z, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Jay-Z's kind of the go-to guy for setting this up, right? He's kind of Goodell's halftime entertainment lieutenant.
Yeah, and I think they want, look, everybody's talking about it. Everybody.
Yeah.
Shows that don't cover music, that don't cover sports, that just, I mean, it was a cultural phenomenon. And so, I understand some people may, hey, look, it needs to be in English, but we don't have an official language in America. There is no official language. Most people speak English. And, okay, I get it. Some people want to sing along or they want to, but it's okay if, like I said, I don't speak any Spanish at all. It's okay if it's not about me. You know what I mean? If it's about other people who get to feel included, that's okay. You know what I mean? Maybe next year it's about, I understood Kendrick Lamar and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre better than I understood Bad Bunny. Doesn't mean I can't appreciate it, because I'm saying these people who are Bad Bunny fans are feeling the same amount of representation that hip hop fans felt with the hip hop acts that have been there. So, all right, that's my Bad Bunny thing. What would you think?
Well, the music is the music. The music is like the noodles, and then the lyrics is like the gravy on top. And you can eat just the music itself. You didn't have to know what the lyrics were because, like you said, the beat was like, wow, and you could tell just, it just had it was good showmanship without knowing what the heck he was saying. And somebody said the lyrics translated, some of them you wouldn't want to know what he was saying, and I'm like, well, to your point,
it gets racy.
Bumping
it gets racy.
Yeah, that they wouldn't have, some of those lyrics wouldn't have passed the FCC muster, but it was entertaining to watch, and it was entertaining to feel the noise, so to speak. And to your point, I'd read a little bit about Bad Bunny and his travels from impoverished youngster to now he's the man, and so that is that's part of the American dream to come from. It's how the Americas were settled, to come from nothing or to come from oppression and then to set up a stake and give it a go and hopefully come out ahead from where you were before. So to that I give him credit.
And some people thought, Green Day and Bad Bunny were going to come out and it's going to be, a protest and the whole thing. And it wasn't that. It wasn't that. It was let's use joy. Let's use love to counter anything negative. And I thought that was a smart strategic move to kind of tamp down some of the vitriol that's out there right now. To not go into it and say, "Oh, I'm gonna stick it to people who disagree with me." No, I'm gonna speak my truth. I'm gonna celebrate my heritage, my culture, and I'm gonna invite everybody else to join in and be a part of this party. And I thought that part of it was well executed.
Yeah, because the stage was his. He could have gone any direction he wanted.
Oh yeah.
There was no 7-second delay on him. Nobody was pulling the plug. And to your point, he didn't turn it into an anti this or pro that. Well, he did. He turned it into an anti-hate and a pro-love. And so and anybody who's got a problem with that, well, then the problem isn't Bad Bunny. The problem is look in the mirror.
Well, and I would say this. I don't know if he had free reign. After Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson, I'm sure either Roger Goodell or Jay-Z kind of poked their head into the production, like, now what are you going to do?
Yeah,
what are you going to do here?
But
we're not going to have any surprises, Mr. Bunny, are we?
But rehearsal and live could be two different things,
right?
Yeah,
because
so,
I don't think Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson revealed the whole thing when when they did it. I don't think we saw that in rehearsal.
Yeah. Did you follow the commercials?
My wife's really into the commercials. Like she'll shush me during the
Mine
commercials.
too.
That's when I want to talk. She's like, shh, I want to see the commercials. I didn't really see any that really grabbed me, and on social media, I haven't seen any that really kind of extended beyond the Super Bowl. Did you see any that you feel like they've become phenomenons outside of the Super Bowl?
Ooh, no. The two that there was one about Lay's potato chips, which started with a baby eagle growing up on like the back of one of a horse or no. That was a Budweiser, the baby eagle. But there was one about the dad handing his farm over to his daughter, potato farmer. Damn, man, I had a lump in my throat watching it. It really hit me. And then there was the Dunkin' Donuts one, which I just did not get. It had
all the 90 stars in it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was, you know what it was? I think it was too AI'd because, I'm like, wait, that's.
And it was a Boston thing, a New England thing. And I know you're.
Yeah. Well, like Ben Affleck looked like he was 12 years old and Ted Danson looked like, he was, and I guess that's all AI. And, I don't know quite how that works, but,
none of us do. That's the problem. They're gonna be doing this show one day. There's gonna be avatars of me and you, and people are gonna think it's us, and AI is gonna take over.
And an Avatar Sam Darnold's gonna say he wanted to grow up to be an Avatar Stan and Avatar Neil and Avatar Kenny. So I don't. There were a couple commercials, but it seems like every commercial has got to hire now. It's got to have like a big name star power. Where I'm more interested in the message, or the artistry that goes into it, the cleverness of the writing, and I don't care if it's this guy that I don't need Leonardo DiCaprio to sell me something. I want something to sell itself.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, look, let me tell you, I'm sure the advertisers love that because they don't like writing those big checks to, to the big stars. They'd rather have a concept where the concept's the star.
Yeah, well that's the point. It's just like, hey man, like the Budweiser. You never see, it's the Clydesdale is the star of every Budweiser commercial. They haven't felt the need to go get, Billy Bob to, ride the horse in or something. So, but yeah, it's
and some of their stars were kind of no names. You remember the guy with Bud Light? Yes, I am. Remember?
Oh
those
yeah,
back in the day?
yeah.
Are you Mr. Krajewski? Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
I don't know who that guy was, but I mean, I know. He had the concept of the commercial down.
Got in the back of the limo. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to call me Johnson. You can call me John, or you can call me Johnny, but she doesn't have to call me Johnson. That was another one.
Exactly.
All right, what else we got to talk about football-wise? Oh, you know what? I want to I thought Mike Tirico was on point, man. God, he's
unbelievable.
Good.
Yeah. I mean,
and
the thing is, he just makes it seem easy. He makes it seem like it's no big deal. And for those of us who do it, we know how big a deal it really is.
Yeah, and
then
he's down on the.
I'm gonna call a Super Bowl. I'm gonna toss to the biggest Olympic news from the field at the Super Bowl. Then I'm gonna go hop on a plane, and 13 hours later, I'm gonna host the Super Bowl primetime on NBC.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think when he showed up down on the field, and I'm like, oh, what's he? And I'm like, wow, is he doing a Super Bowl toss from the field with the stage behind him where they're celebrating? And he's got no prompter. He's just the man. He's not doing any he's just smooth. Oh, and he just on. And Collinsworth takes a lot of grief too, and I thought he was great, man. I thought he was funny, and I thought him and Tirico did a great job. And I think it was Mike's first Super Bowl, and man, I thought he was really good, man. Really, it was really cool to say, yeah, I know that guy a little bit.
Yeah, and I think what makes them such a good team is that Mike does a good job of setting the table, keeping you informed about what's going on, what they're doing, and a little bit of the backstory. Not too much, but a little bit of the backstory of the players and the coaches so that you kind of understand who they are. And if you're a casual fan, you can follow along. And if you're a hardcore fan, it's not dumbed down to the point where you're like, no joke, Mike, really? And then Collinsworth, I think, does a good job of figuring out a theme of a game as the game goes along and then weaving that theme together. Like, I think he picked up early on that, look, this is going to be a defensive game and what that means when it's a defensive game, how you approach a defensive game. Seattle kicking the field goals because they know it's a defensive game. How does New England respond to the fact that it's a defensive game? Do they try to open it up with Drake Maye and try to climb back in it, or do they continue to play? So I think he does a good job with themes, figuring out what the theme of a game is and then weaving that story in as the game goes along.
Yeah, Seattle's defense would continue to swallow May up, and Collinsworth would go, this is a 4-man rush. It was, they weren't blitzing it. They weren't, they did at times, but, a lot of times it was just Seattle's 4 against their 5, and Seattle's 4 was winning that battle against the Patriots offensive line.
Yep. And the amount of, back to Mike again, the amount of preparation that goes into both those things. Now, first of all, for the Super Bowl, like you can't make mistakes. There's 135 million people watching. Any mistake you make is going to be amplified. And so your preparation has to be on point. Okay, so there's that where you have this massive event. And the preparation in terms of personnel, like, it's 53 guys. You know what I mean? And so pretty much who those guys are. There's no curveballs. Okay, but then you go from that to the Olympics where there's athletes in sports you don't cover every day from all over the world. People you've never heard of. But you have to be able to tell their stories as well. And so to have those two very different assignments back to back, both at the absolute pinnacle of our profession. I mean, there are two big things as a sportscaster that you could be affiliated with. It's the Super Bowl and the Olympics. And he's doing both of them back to back in consecutive days with a transcontinental flight in between. I mean, it's a real feat.
Yeah, he just strikes me as a guy who could host he could host a morning, Good Morning America. He could do that. He could do the 6 o'clock news, Mike Tirico. He just seems to and did you see over on ESPN when the game ended, they did this really cool I don't want to call it a drone shot because it was more graphically and produced, I think, but they started from where the game was, and they worked their way down the California coast, Big Sur and all and they worked their way to SoFi, and Van Pelt was standing outside SoFi because next year ESPN gets its first Super Bowl, and it'll be at SoFi. And so I thought that was kind of cool to have Van Pelt down there, although I'm sure he might rather be at the game. But once it made sense once the production value was placed in front of it.
Yeah, the handoff. I saw somebody joking that ESPN has a Super Bowl next year, and the pregame show just started. So
that's pretty
much going to continue right up until kickoff.
Yeah. And furthermore,
But hey, if you get a Super Bowl, I mean, you got to make the most of it. If you're a broadcast entity, especially if it's your first one, you got to make the most of it. And I think ESPN with the resources and the people and the technology and everything that it has available, I think it's going to be. I think they're going to do it justice.
Well, ESPN's the big ESPN's the big cheese, and the NFL's the big cheese. And I think some of what we talked about earlier about how there wasn't a lot of build up for this game, and you mentioned a lack of star power. I felt like part of it was too ESPN really concentrated on NBA and the trade deadline, and because that's one of their babies, and it's like, hey, we're not showing the Super Bowl. We got the NBA. And a lot of people looking for Super Bowl coverage would get it, but they would get it after they got all the NBA coverage, and they really went hard on the trade deadline. And it's one of the few times that the NBA may have gotten the upper hand on the NFL, which is probably a nice little payback for the NBA, given how the NFL came in and said, "Oh, you guys are doing Christmas alone? Not anymore."
And then we can't ignore the emergence of non-broadcast media, online media. And because basically you had content creators basically going and setting up shop on Media Row or just in the vicinity of the Super Bowl, and then just firing up the camera and just, hey, whoever stops by, we're just either going live or we're just posting chunks, on our various platforms. And I heard conversations from all manner of different people just at the Super Bowl. Some people had nothing to do with the Super Bowl. I mean, I heard baseball talk at the Super Bowl from baseball people who just happened to be there, NBA talk. I mean, everything. And so it's a new landscape now with the emergence of non-broadcast media where, it's the same thing at the fight. I went to the Canelo Crawford fight, and all the smoke, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, they just set up there, and whoever was there just came by and hey, okay, we got Canelo's manager coming in. All right, well let's sit down and talk to him. Let's go live. So they fire up the camera and they just go live, and people would get notifications from their platforms. Hey, we're going live. And then Shannon Sharp was there with Ocho Cinco and their podcast. The same thing. Guy would get up, walk from all the smoke and go over to Shannon Sharp's podcast, and then they would fire up and go live. And then, and I wound up doing interviews with both of them, just talking about the fight and talking about what me and you were up to, and, we
ran it on here. We ran it on one of our early shows.
Yeah. So it's a totally different media landscape now. And, there's good and bad to it. Because I just worry about misinformation, even though, the misinformation that we deal with is not as important as the misinformation in real life events. I mean, it's just sports, but still, you can have someone with an agenda and decide, hey, I'm going to go around and I'm going to spread my agenda through these various media platforms, and there might not be anybody there to check that. You know what I mean, or to fact check it or whatever. So there is that concern, because that's there's gatekeeping in broadcast media that keeps everything responsible. And so I worry about that a little bit. But in general, I think, more voices is better. I mean, look, here we are, in a prior generation. If we don't take another broadcast job, that's it. When we leave ESPN, that's it. You know what I mean? But now we can just say, hey, man, I like talking to this dude about sports. And people seem to enjoy us getting together to talk about sports. So let's just keep doing it and just do it our own way, doing our own thing. And now here we are, So a lot to be said for that.
Right now is where I'd like to ask anybody who'd like to sponsor the Stan and Neil show. We'd like to have you on board. Let's talk about the NBA and this fight last night, because this thing got out of hand big time. If I'm Adam Silver, I'm coming down hard on these guys, because you cannot have that. I mean, it trickled into the front row. It's such a bad look.
Yeah, it really is. Isaiah Stewart came off the bench.
Yeah.
So I think he's probably gonna get hit the hardest. There could be something for Duran and Diabate, and I believe Miles Bridges was involved as well. So there's going to be suspensions and fines. I think Stewart's going to get hit the hardest, because what you can't do is come off the bench. Like, that's absolutely a no-no, because then you create a situation where the guys on the other team feel like they have to come off the bench too, and then you got a situation that's just out of control. If you have just the 5 guys on each team that are on the floor, and you get a bunch of security people and officials out there, you can kind of keep control of it. But when guys start coming off the bench, and now all of a sudden you could have 15, 20, 30 guys out on the floor, then there's no way to control it. So they have to send a very strong message about that. And it's a shame that it happened, because it marred what had been a really good playoff level game in terms of its intensity. And I was looking forward to it. I do Countdown Live on FanDuel Sports Network, and those are both FanDuel Sports Network teams. And so on the show yesterday, we were talking about this game a lot, and talking about how, Charlotte came in on a 9-game win streak, and now they're measuring themselves against the top team in the East, and it's going to be a sellout crowd, and the fans there are into it. And so we knew it would be an intense game. We knew it could be a possible, playoff preview if Charlotte keeps going the way they're going, because they could sneak in, at the bottom half of the playoff race in the East, and Detroit's at the top. So maybe you get them in a 1-8 matchup. And this, this kind of marred everything. So they got to send a message about this and keep it going, because look, you want the intensity, because people say, oh well, the players don't care, or the players don't play hard, or whatever the objection is du jour. This was not that. These guys, they were going at it. This was playoff intensity, and it went overboard.
Yeah, I don't even know how to say it. The kid they showed just there pulling off the court. He's Diabate. Yeah, he's got to he's got to calm down. I mean, it's you got four or 5 guys around you. What do you want us to let you go, and then 9 guys from Detroit are going to jump on you? It's just like, hey, you got common sense, level head has got to prevail. I find it interesting too that there's the security, and then each team apparently has 19 assistant coaches, I counted, and they're able to come in and break it. I mean, how many coaches do you need?
There are a lot of assistant coaches in the NBA. A lot
Aren't
of assistant
there?
coaches. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you figure, okay, there's one guy who the head coach, and then you have an assistant head coach, and then you have a guy who specializes in defense. A lot of teams, you have a guy who specializes in dealing with the backcourt guys. You have a guy who deals with the post guys. How many are we up to now? 5 or 6?
Yeah.
And then your athletic trainer. Maybe your athletic trainer has a second. and then it starts getting up there when you specialize. But even when I look at all the different roles, I still can only get up to about 7 or 8, and then I'm like, well, who are the other 5 guys?
Yeah. Yeah. This is. I mean, this guy's just going nuts.
And,
I mean,
they're
come
still
on.
going. We've been rolling this video
Yeah.
talking, and they're still going.
Yeah. All right. Who's the most? We're talking about the East. Who do you think is the most dangerous team in the NBA East as we come into the All-Star break?
I want to say Cleveland, with the addition of James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, because that's a potential, 60 points every night. I mean, those guys scoring 30 it's not even a big deal for either one of those guys to score 30, and now they're playing together. And then, Harden, with his ability to make big men better. If you think about what he did with Joel Embiid in Philly, Embiid won the MVP that year with Harden playing point guard. Ivica Zubac really saw his career take off playing with Harden. So I was talking to Brad Daugherty about this, who does the Cavaliers games. And Brad said, yeah, he expects that Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are really going to benefit from Harden more than anybody else. So you put that together with Donovan Mitchell, who, man, he's strong and he's quick and he's skilled. He can hit threes. He can get to the basket. I mean, he can do pretty much everything you want offensively. They're not going to have much of a drop off when they play Harden and Donovan Mitchell together. Now you got problems because who are you going to double? Who are you going to play off of? Okay, and then when one goes to the bench, you can still play the other one, to run the offense. So Cleveland's got a lot of good pieces. I think, in the end, I think they could be the team to beat. Now, it fell apart in the playoffs last year after that great regular season, but I think they could be the team to beat in the Eastern Conference, even though they're in the 4th spot right now.
Yeah.
I like Detroit a lot too.
I just think Detroit has, this is their first time on the main stage with Cunningham and the likes, Duran and all that. I kind of like, when we did this at the beginning of the NBA season, we did who's your dark horse in the East and who's your dark horse in the West. And I said Boston was my dark horse in the East. So I'm going to stick with that just because I think Jaylen Brown's playing at an MVP level. And if they get Tatum back and he's good to go, that can't hurt them. Although I saw somebody said they thought Tatum coming back would hurt them. And I thought, well, that's dumb. But yeah, I just, they've been there. They've tasted it. They've got most of their guys, Porzingis they got rid of to Atlanta, who now made his way over to Golden State. He never plays. I don't get that trade.
No.
So I kind of like Boston, but to your point, Cleveland, the Knicks, Detroit, right there. It's everybody's like, oh, the East is the East is very compelling right now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, thing about Boston is, look, they're going to do what they do. Okay? They're going to plug in guys, and they're going to run their stuff. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to try to get to the basket, try to get free throws, try to get layups. I mean, they believe in analytics. And analytics says threes, layups, free throws. That's what you want. And so that's what they're going to do. And when they're hitting threes, they're really hard to beat because everybody can shoot. And when they're having an off night, you can get them. But when they're on, I mean, they can run you out of the building shooting threes. And then they got Jaylen Brown, who can create his own shot pretty much whenever he wants to, And, you start doubling, and then he kicks it out, and they're good at making the extra pass to get it to an open shooter. And so what they do is relatively simple. It's just hard to stop, because they train their guys to do what they want to do, and they don't vary from their system. They run it. And so, Joe Mazzulla's he's done a good job. I mean, nobody thought they'd be up here. It almost seemed like a redshirt year, without Tatum. But he said, no, we're just going to keep doing what we do and just bring in other guys to do it. So, the Knicks, we'll see about the Knicks. We'll see about the Knicks. I mean, Cat and Brunson carry a big part of the load there. But I tell you who I'm really starting to enjoy watching. Who's the other guy? Came from Toronto.
OG.
Anunoby. Man,
Yeah,
that dude
he's
is a
good.
freight train. He is a
He's
freight
good.
train. Like when
Yeah.
I would not want to take a charge, that's one where hey, I let him go. Sorry. I mean, because he almost gets a running start before he catches the ball. And so he's already got a head of steam when he catches the ball, and then I mean, he's hard to deal with. I mean, he's a freight train coming through the lane. So I really like him, but I think he's kind of streaky. But when he gets it going, he can really be an X factor for the Knicks.
Speaking of freight train, Stan, there's a guy out west who's got some freight train in him when he's come down the lane, but he sounds like a guy whose team may be derailed a little bit. Talking about LeBron James, here's what he had to say last night after the Lakers got beat at home by Oklahoma City.
That's a championship team right there. We're not. So I don't understand.
What are the biggest things you think that are keeping this team as right now?
We can't sustain energy and effort for 48 minutes. And they can. That's why they won a championship.
Well, listen, Oklahoma City is the benchmark because they're the reigning champs. But LeBron with a call to arms for his teammates, his coaching staff, and hopefully himself as well.
Yeah, when they have all three of their guys on the floor, they're three big scorers: LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves. I mean, they're really good. They can just outscore you, which they have to do because they're not very good defensively.
Yes, exactly.
So they didn't have Doncic last night. Oklahoma City didn't have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so you think, okay, well, maybe that's a fair fight. But, OKC has proven that they can bring guys in off the bench and they can turn the offense over to Jalen Williams, which is what they did in the fourth quarter down the stretch. They said, okay, Jalen, you're the guy now. You take us home. And he did. So that's the benefit of having two all-star caliber players, at the top of your roster. And then everybody there is great in their role. From Holmgren, Hartenstein, Lou Dort, Wiggins, Isaiah Joe. They got a lot of guys who just do what they're called on to do. And so that, and then they're young. They're young.
Yeah.
And
they got 1 million draft picks.
Yeah. The pace of the current NBA is such that youth is really, really important because they're getting up and down the floor. And, age is what it is. I mean, none of us are what we once were, and they got waves of young guys they can run at you. And so that goes to LeBron James' point where, hey, man, we can't sustain energy and effort for 48 minutes. Well, because tired is a real thing.
Yeah.
And the older you get, the more real it becomes.
Yeah, LeBron's what, 41, 42? It's, hey.
Yeah. So, Luka Doncic is going to do what he can on defense, but that's not what he's out there for. He's out there to score, And so, it just is what it is. I mean, I think the Lakers are a really good team when they have all three of those guys on the floor because they can practically score at will. But it's scoring and stopping the other team from scoring. There's two components to it.
So who's the most dangerous team in the West? Is it OKC because of those things you just said?
Yeah, I still think it's OKC. However, I go back to something Victor Wembanyama said when they beat Oklahoma City in those first three matchups. I thought it was really interesting the way he said it too. He said we're downloading intel about how to deal with this team as we play them that we can use later. And so I really like that cerebral approach to, okay, what makes them work? How do we attack it? And then how do we anticipate their counter moves to what we're doing? And so when Benyama said that was kind of the key to their success early on against OKC, and they were filing away the things that they were learning for when they potentially see him again in the Western Conference Finals. Wouldn't rule out Denver either because they got Jokic, and he's a matchup nightmare for anybody because of all the different things he can do. He can shoot the three, he can put it on the floor, he can play point center if you need him to. Or he could do the stretch five thing where he's out at the top shooting threes, and great passer. And then Jamal Murray's having an all-star caliber season. Yep. Their role players are good as well. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been a big lift for them, knocking down threes. So I don't, and Gordon when he's healthy.
Yeah.
So I don't count out Denver either, but I think it's still got to run through OKC.
Yeah, I look at San Antonio. I look at San Antonio and I kind of compare them with Detroit. Like they're a good futures bet. Not this season, but they're coming up. These are going to be two best supporting actors who are going to be lead actors here shortly with the young talent that they have with them. But yeah, it's got to run through OKC. Now that's assuming that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander comes back healthy, because he's the conductor of that train. And I don't see them being nearly as successful if he's not part of that equation. And then I'm looking at Denver, maybe Houston, although I think they're lacking a little bit. But yeah, I think it's OKC, and which pains me to say, because I've made it very clear on this program that they were stolen from Seattle, and it's hard to and I don't blame the players, but I find no joy in their ownership succeeding in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, now I don't know if you saw, but there are expansion talks in the NBA, and the two places being considered for expansion, supposedly the two frontrunners, are Vegas and Seattle.
Well, Seattle deserves a team. Yeah, for sure. They should have never lost theirs, and Vegas is Vegas. I think Nashville's another city I've heard that's being talked about. So
if they come back, should they be the Supersonics?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so you're with the Cleveland Browns theory, where even though the Browns became the Ravens, when they got the expansion team, they went back to the old name. You don't want like a new name?
No, I don't think so. I think Seattle fans would say no. We are the Supersonics, and so give us a team back. It's not going to be our old team, but that's all right. It's our team.
Okay, all right, I'm down with that.
Yeah, you down with the Olympics?
Haven't watched much, I got to say. Like everybody else, I saw the Lindsey Vonn thing, and that was man, that was tough to watch.
Yeah, just I think it was Dan Hicks. Just his announcing was like, wow, you could really feel the oh my God in his voice. And just you look at the speeds that they're going 80 miles an hour downhill there at times.
Some of the camera work that really allows you to see how dangerous that is. I mean, I was watching this, and I would crash out in the first hill, first ramp going down. I'm done. And the thing is, like, I'm sure you can't think about that, right? You can't think about that, but it's there. But it's there because there's no, you're gonna tumble. If you fall, you're gonna tumble. There's no stopping. So that takes a tremendous amount of courage just to say I'm going to attempt to do that. To attempt to do it with a torn ACL, is I mean now. I met Lindsey Vonn. I hosted a charity event out here with her several years ago. Could not have been nicer. And so, I've rooted for her since then. Before then. but then actually getting to meet her and hosting the event with her, it made me more of a fan than I was before. And so I was rooting for her, but I was like, I don't know about this decision. But she said the injury wasn't a factor in it. She just lost it.
Yeah. You remember, Stan and I, we grew up watching Wide World of Sports and Jim McKay's voice, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And the agony of defeat was the skier. The skier wiping out was the agony of defeat. And that's immediately what I thought of when Lindsey Vonn went head over heels or whatever, just midair. And yeah, the guy that I've been watching a little bit. So I was watching the figure skating, and the American team's got this guy, they call him the quad god.
Yeah.
Because he can do a quad jump, which I'm guessing is, I don't know, four.
Yeah. Quad
spinning
four
times in the air.
Four. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he does a backflip. And he looks like, and he's got a good head of hair, which I always appreciate. And he kind of looks like he could be Heath Ledger's little brother. So I'm kind of rooting for that guy because he looks kind of dudeish out there with the hair and the backflip and the nickname.
Yeah, and I think we got a medal in curling. The U.S. got a medal in curling.
Yeah. I think Ted Robinson calls curling for the Peacock or NBC. And Ted's a big old Pac-12 guy. Worked a lot with Bill Walton on the Pac-12 basketball way back when. Good dude.
Yeah. So I was reading that curling is catching on in the states that border Canada. And I guess you could do it anywhere, right? If you got ice inside, you could do it anywhere. But I don't know why, but Minnesota and I think Wisconsin, there were some people talking online, about curling becoming big in Wisconsin, and they said, hey, we can drink beer while we do it too. And so
What do you know least about, curling or cricket?
Cricket. Because curling, you figure out, you roll the thing. I forget what it's called. What's it called? A disc? What's it called? The beam?
No idea.
Ball?
I know
whatever
nothing
it's
about
called.
either of them.
And then the other person's got to kind of like rough up the ice so that it slows down. That's pretty easy to understand. Cricket, it's like kind of like baseball, but then there's no glove, and then like the game ends, then you come back tomorrow, the game starts again, and like the game can go on for like forever. I don't know what decides when it's over. I don't understand it, and I probably should, because who knows when you're gonna have an opportunity to call a cricket match, and you would want to be like Mike Tirico if you get Mike
Tirico could call cricket right now.
A cricket match right now.
Exactly.
They could say, Mike, we need you to leave from the Olympics, go do a cricket. I think it's called a test. We need you to go do a cricket test and then come back tomorrow. He'd do it and he'd nail it.
100%. 100%.
I wouldn't.
No. Oh, I'm just trying to nail this podcast. Christ.
I would hope we had an analyst and I'd be like, well, what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, there'd be a lot of that.
Exactly. All right. I think we got it covered here.
Good stuff, brother.
Absolutely. All right.
I'm on a plane up to Portland tonight. We got the Timberwolves and the Jazz the next two nights, tomorrow night and Thursday night. So I'm headed up to Portland in a couple hours. So we'll be back. We'll be back next Wednesday. Oh, producer Jeff, what are you on
the road? Clippers have the Rockets on the road, so I'm gonna be watching from the couch the next two nights.
Producer Jeff, what do you got? You got anything for us from your underground bunker?
Well, I got one quick thing. All right. We've seen players flip off crowds. We've seen them flip each other off. I've never seen a player flip off the rim. And that's what Colin Sexton did last night. He just got traded to the Bulls. It was his second game.
Yeah.
And he missed a free throw. And he said, hey, Rim, I got something for you.
Hey,
and
sometimes the iron's unkind, and you have to respond in kind.
Yeah.
That's funny. I hadn't seen that. Had you seen that, Stan?
No.
Yeah. That's good. That's it. All right.
Well, we will see you next week. Yeah, the Rim's number one. Absolutely. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Spread the word. Help us spread the word about the Stan and Neil Show.
Yeah, man. Come on. Coach D, take us home.
Let's go. How's it? Do you know what time it is? Let's go! The Stan and Neil Show. 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 With Stan. Oh, Stan, he's the man. And who's Stan's biggest fan? Well, it's Neil. And Neil, oh, Neil, he keeps it real. And that's why Neil's the deal. Stan and Neil back together again. Spreading the love with all their old friends. Let's go! Stan and Neil back together for you. Keeping it cool, cause cool's our rule. The Stan and Neil Show. 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 Yeah. All right, let me hear it all back. See what we got so far.
So, shout out to Coach D for the jingle, the Stan and Neil jingle.